Summer 2025 is upon us. While most normal people would spend their summer going to the beach, going on vacation, and touching grass, I have spent my summer doing something much more fun and rewarding than all of those activities combined. I sat on my ass and watched anime, that's what I did. This season of anime is absolutely stacked with brand new seasons of beloved series and a bunch of new and intriguing adaptations that it's hard to pick where to start. We got new seasons of Dress Up Darling, Kaiju number 8, a new core of Sakamoto Days, One Piece is still going strong somehow, Panty and Stocking is back. With all these immensely popular releases, it was really difficult to figure out which shows to highlight in this video, and as much as I'd love to be a basement-dwelling no-life weeb, that's just not the plans God had in mind for me. So for this video, me and my trusty editor Crafty cultivated a list of 8 anime that I could sit down and indulge in to get a good scope of just how crazy this anime season really is. The rules are simple. I watch the first episode of each series and give you my raw, throbbing, earthy impressions of each episode and rank them on a tier list from S rank to F rank. Original idea, I know. Disclaimer, there will be spoilers for the first episode of most of these anime and the first episode only, so if you want to go in blind, I recommend watching these anime first before continuing. So now let's just get right into it. Did you know that I stream? Yes, on Twitch you can catch me streaming. I stream video games, I stream wrestling, I stream sports during football season, and I talk a whole bunch of bullshit. And if you are interested in any of those activities, follow me at twitch.tv/romcomsenpai. You get to see this cute little model going all sorts of crazy, feral, and degenerate all over your ass. So please follow me there. Also, you can follow me for clips of these Twitch streams at Romcom Deluxe here on YouTube. That is the second channel where all the stream highlights go. So please follow me in the socials below so that you could stay up to date with everything that is Romcom Senpai. Now back to regularly scheduled programming. We start off this list with one of my favorite series finally returning for a second season. Animated by Studio Cloverworks, Rascal Does Not Dream of Santa Claus puts us right back in the Bunny Girl Senpai series, taking place directly after the last 2 movies released. I actually had to watch those movies right before this episode to catch up on the series, and let me tell you, it was damn worth it. Everyone's all grown and in college, and things are really starting to look bright for everyone. However, in true Rascal fashion, things tend to get mysterious and weird rather quickly. Our main man, Sakata, meets up with the blue-haired girl from the first season and first film to learn that the popular singer who was kind of a running theme in the 2 prior movies doesn't exist in any other timeline other than the main one we follow. Ah, yeah, that puberty syndrome seemingly striking again, but this time in a way we haven't seen before. Sakata also ends up meeting this really friendly girl in school, and she becomes some sort of acquaintance, chatting with and sitting next to Sakata for most of the episode. There's a lot of other plot points as well occurring that I don't want to fully get into, or else I'll just be full-blown spoiling what the season is going to entail, but let's just say there's some crazy plot twists that really amped me up to see exactly where the story was going. The animation and art style is great per usual with Cloverworks, and even though it's been a few years in between releases, this series has definitely not skipped a beat in both the narrative and visual department. It's a great episode and an amazing series, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. I'm giving this a solid A tier. Easily the most anticipated anime adaptation for me since Dandadan and Chainsaw Man, Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity is one of the best romance series you could possibly find. Once again, animated by Cloverworks, this show looks so distinctly different compared to Rascal that it amazes me the same studio is working on both of these shows at the same time. The art style is absolutely on par with the manga, which I had my doubts on considering how iconic and lovely a lot of the panels in the manga are. Fragrant Flower is a story akin to that of Romeo and Juliet, where we follow our main man Rintaro. Rintaro is this seemingly brooding, intimidating boy who happens to go to Chidori, an all-delinquent boys' school with the worst reputation imaginable. Directly next to their school is Kikyo, a high-class, well-respected all-girls school who absolutely hates anything and everything about Chidori. One night, as Rintaro helps work in his parents' bakery, we see a young lovely girl named Karuko Wagari enjoying the pastries. The two over the course of the episode meet and start to get to know each other, with Karuko seeing through the rough exterior of Rintaro and acknowledging his true warm and kind personality. This shakes Rintaro to his core, considering he's had the reputation of being this scary tough guy for most of his teen life. Now remember the two opposing schools I mentioned earlier, turns out while Rintaro attends the Dan near criminal boys school, Karuko goes to Chidori. Again, two completely different ideologies and backgrounds, yet we're able to connect with each other in a way no one else has. This is where this series gets its comparison to Romeo and Juliet, and it is an absolute joy. If you aren't sold on this series by the first episode, I implore you to keep watching because it only gets better and better. This is easily one of the most wholesome and lovely romance series I've ever had the pleasure of reading, and I am more than thrilled to see it animated. I love the first episode just as much as I loved reading the first few chapters, so on pure bias alone, this gets an S tier from me, baby. This is going straight to the top. We jump from a top-of-the-line romance to one I didn't even know existed with cultural exchange with Game Center Girl. This anime was produced by Studio Nomad, a studio I had no idea existed, so I did a little research and turns out they primarily animate lolly anime. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, help us all. First thing of note with this show, the opening kind of slaps. I mean, it's exactly the kind of song I imagine when I see these kinds of shows, but I still kind of liked it nonetheless. None of the less? It's not even a word. None of the less. That's not even a word. It's not even a word. Lolly anime is going to be the death of me one day. Also, visually, this show is kind of pleasing to the eye. The animation and art style itself is pretty generic for 2025 standards, considering Dandadan is out here doing shit like this, but the colors are super bright and it still looks cute, so I can't say I was disappointed in any way. This show is simple and dumb. Foreign English-speaking girl goes to Japan, finds an arcade, and can't seem to win the claw machine game. Renji, an employee, sees her struggle and wins the prize for her, but since he's ass at English, he gives it to her as an accidental Valentine's Day gift, and she seems to take a liking to him. Turns out in Britain, giving a gift to a girl on Valentine's Day is a confession of love. Oh, but when I give a girl a Valentine's Day gift, she just ends up calling the cops and I get my ass beat. But that's just, you know. Anyway, Renji, just figuring all this out, decides to write in a notebook using English to help communicate with the girl who he finds out is named Lily in order to get to know her better and clear up the whole love confession mix-up. And if you know anything about romance comedy anime, then you can tell exactly where this is going. It's a generic romance comedy, but it's kind of charming. You know, it kind of reminds me of like the anime Gamers, which was also a mid-tier show, but it had its charm. The opening for that show was fucking great though. I love that this is the second show that I've had to watch for this video that came with Capcom references. The other one I'll be covering in just a bit, but in here there was like the House of the Dead machine and the characters looked like Jill and Wesker from Resident Evil, but they were saying Devil May Cry lines and it was kind of fucking funny. This show isn't anything special, but the premise is cute and kind of fun, so you know, it's like a really good turn your brain off kind of anime, and if these sorts of cute lighthearted shows are your cup of tea, then I could definitely recommend it. I'm gonna give it a solid C tier. It wasn't like offensive or anything. Man, what more can I say that I haven't already said about Dandadan? Still animated by Science Saru, this season takes place exactly where we left off in not just the story, but in every single aspect. Phenomenal voice acting, stellar visuals, great pacing, banger soundtrack from opening to ending. Everything about this episode is exactly what I fell in love with in the first season. All the unsettling and absurd concepts that gives this show its identity are on full display. We also get more of Gigi this go around, and he's a character I've been super interested in learning more about since I've never read the manga. There isn't enough words to describe the praise I have for Dandadan. If you want to know more of my thoughts on this series as a whole, please go check out my Dandadan video, which will be in the description below. Also, the opening still says the name of the show in it, and I'm a sucker for when a theme song does that, so I'm glad that trend continued with the new opening. I love Dandadan. It's one of my favorite new series out right now. It's something I look forward to every single week. I've been looking forward to this season. This is an easy S tier. This is one of the best shows out right now. Please go watch Dandadan. A series that I don't think is nearly as popular as it should be, Call of the Night returns for what I can easily tell you will be the best season of this series yet. As an avid fan of the manga, this has been a series I've hoped more people gave the time of day, and if you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it. A mix of romance, vampires, and a Monogatari-esque vibe, Call of the Night offers one of the more unique anime/manga experiences, and this season started off that way with no exceptions. The animation and artwork is fantastic. There is so much style and character in its presentation that really adds to not only the narrative at hand, but the setting as a whole. Season 2 continues exactly where Season 1 leaves off, as our main duo of vampire Nazuna and the young lad Ko Yamori attempt to find the meaning of romance and emotional connection in order to properly turn Ko into a vampire. This isn't your typical romance by any means, as these characters don't have any conventional idea of what being in love is truly about, but are slowly but surely thoroughly uncovering the meaning of love while also dealing with the world of the supernatural. Hey, remember when I was talking about Capcom earlier and they were in that one other show and they were, you know, there was like fucking Resident Evil characters? Well, now they're playing Street Fighter 3rd Strike on a PlayStation, dude. This season is stacked. It's insane, dude. Shout out Capcom. We are so back. If you like supernatural elements, romance, drama, and a good laugh, this is the show for you. I'd like to think this was Twilight if it wasn't completely dog shit. I was gonna give this a high B, but my heart says it's an A, so A tier it is. As much as I'd like to glaze all the amazing anime that are airing this summer, it is my job as an anime YouTuber to also bring you some of the worst the season has to offer, at least in my opinion. Behold, welcome to the Outcast Restaurant, animated by OLM, the studio that brought you shit like Apothecary Diaries, Odd Taxi, Pokemon, and the ever so beloved Berserk 1997 adaptation. That is one of the fucking wildest lineups of anime a studio has ever fucking had. Like, I don't even, how do you even go from I'm not even gonna talk about it. Berserk 97 was really good though. Outcast Restaurant is just one of those fucking low-effort fantasy snooze fests. The story follows Dennis. Wow, what a fucking name for an anime character. Dennis the Menace over here used to be in this really strong guild, but thanks to his popularity, was exiled from the group out of spite by the leader and forced to leave his home. You can't be popular all the time. Sometimes being popular is a curse, baby. I wouldn't fucking know. I would never know. While in the midst of leaving home, he finds this slave girl being sold off, and he decides to buy her, saving her from whatever horror she was going to face at the hands of, let's just say questionable men. God, you know, I really hate this trope, and it's always used in these shitty-ass fantasy anime. Like, can't we write something good for once? Like, seriously, when are we ever gonna write something good? Why does women always gotta be in trouble? Why do they always gotta be some sort of slave to some sort of weird SA? I'm starting to hate Japan. Regardless of my rant, he sets her free and she and Dennis end up opening I can't get over that name. That name sucks. To any of my viewers named Dennis, I sincerely apologize. I'm so sorry. The name itself doesn't suck. It's just bad for an anime character. I'm sorry I'm ruining your representation here, and I apologize greatly. Anyways, she and Dennis end up opening up a restaurant because apparently that's his true life's passion, and that's it. That's the whole fucking show. This is basically Temu Dungeon Meshi. It's like, Mom, can we have Dungeon Meshi, please? No, son, we have Dungeon Meshi at home, and it's just this pile of generic, uninspired pubic hair. There is nothing about this show that stands out other than it's one of the few boring releases in a season filled to the brim with quality anime. The animation is bland, and yeah, sure, maybe I'm spoiled by the fact that an anime as mid as fucking Demon Slayer has the most exceptional animation ever seen, but at least do something visually to stand out, please. I literally couldn't tell this apart from any of the other fantasy slop that releases every season. The food does look nice though, but with animation this boring and characters literally named Dennis, there really isn't much to write home about. If you know me by now, I don't really enjoy these nothing burger ass fantasy shows, especially when there's anime like ReZero, Konosuba, and my beloved goat Frieren out there for you to watch instead of whatever the fuck this is. This isn't the worst anime ever, but one episode of this was one episode too much for me. I'm dropping this motherfucker directly into D tier. One of the anime that has been on my radar since its announcement, Gachiakuta, animated by the legendary studio Bones, takes place in a world where the lower class and higher class are segregated into two living areas, the slums and the not so slums. Those who live in the slums are considered descendants of criminals and basically completely exiled off from the rest of society. I mean, they're literally separated by a big ass wall. It's kind of crazy. We follow a young man named Rudo who lives in these slums and detests the idea of the wealthy, more specifically the way they just discard trash without any care to the product they may be throwing out. However, this society doesn't just consider objects trash, but also people, more specifically criminals. There's this giant void known as the pit, and anyone who commits a crime in the slums is discarded into said pit to meet their impending demise as punishment. Rudo is a foster kid living with his foster father Regto, and things take a turn for the worse when a mysterious man murders Regto and beats the ever-loving shit out of Rudo. The police arrive on the scene and of course finding only Rudo alive, determine that he was at fault and sentence his ass straight to the pit. Rudo swears his revenge on the murderer and the people who sentence him to his grim fate, and that's the whole episode. That's all I can really talk about. It's a good old classic revenge story in the making, and I love these kinds of shows. This is definitely another one of those darker shonen series much like Chainsaw Man, Hell's Paradise, and strangely Dead Man Wonderland. I will be your dead man. with nothing but his cum on my hand. In fact, the art style alone really pushes that sentiment with the muted grunge-like colors, bold line work, and downright frightening character design at points. The outfits are also very Nomura-esque with a bunch of belts and buckles while adding a little gritty steampunk. I really dig the way this show looks and feels, with its soundtrack being very metal, synth, and hip-hop based. It definitely adds some grit and weight to the setting and the story, which makes this more intriguing and way more easy to invest in. I like this show already. I'm not super big into the typical feel-good shonen. I like my stories to feel dark and heavy, and this show checks all those boxes so far. I'm extremely excited to see how the rest of this plays out, given I have never seen any of the source material. I don't even know if it has a manga, but honestly, I'm gonna have to give this a super high A tier. I like this. Last but certainly not least, we have the summer Hikaru died. Out of all of the anime I covered in this video, this is the one that stuck with me the most. A story about loss, grief, dread, and unimaginable horror. A boy named Hikaru goes missing on a mountain one day, never to be seen again by his friends or family. He is assumed dead until one day he returns. However, something is deeply, horribly wrong. This is the kind of anime you need to go blind in. I will not summarize this episode for you. I will only tell you to watch it and see why this is my favorite of the bunch. The presentation is absolutely beautiful, but something about it seems off. Characters look like they jut out from the background sometimes, even having some otherworldly glow to them, which feels so purposeful considering the narrative of this show. There's sprinkled themes of mental health, sanity, the feeling of loss, and just so much suspense and eeriness. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong here, and the direction adds to that tenfold. There are scenes where things are so lighthearted and slice of life-esque, only to be immediately flipped on its head with this sense of overwhelming dread and despair. Everything about this first episode made me uneasy, and I wanted to see and learn more and more about the characters and the world and what we were doing here. You will have more questions and answers, but for me, I find that to be the most intriguing and engaging aspect. It's kind of crazy that Cygames Pictures, the studio who produced this series, worked on shit like Idolmaster, Uma Musume, and fucking Princess Connect Redive, only to crank out one of the most suspenseful and frightening anime I've seen in years. If you like horror, dread, and mystery, this is your show for the season. It's easily the series I look forward to completing the most, and I might even make a video on it in the future if it lives up to my expectations. Without a doubt, this is an S tier, and the easiest one at that. Considering I almost never have the time to watch anime as much as I used to, I find it quite refreshing to have such a stacked lineup of anime to reinvigorate my love of the medium. In an age where we get a lot of the same slop from the same genres, I was thoroughly impressed with the variety of shows and sheer quality of these anime this season. The future of anime seems brighter than ever, and I hope that this is just the start of more loaded seasons of anime in the future. Plus, it's much easier to make videos on anime that I actually want to watch, so thank you for giving me something to fucking work with here, Japan. I really appreciate that. This season has something for everyone, and I can't wait to see how all of these series progress. I mean, truly, no better way to spend your summer than fucking watching anime instead of going outside and getting laid, but you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way, baby. As always, I'm your friendly neighborhood rom-com senpai, signing off, so remember to be kind, take care, and go Bills. I'll see you in the next one. My voice fucking cracked. Goodbye, everyone.